Guys, we're here with Sandrine Mootoo. We met a few years ago when I first introduced her to the Church of Scientology. She's got an awesome story. She's a qualified lawyer, originally, I believe, from Mauritius, grew up in Australia, and has been doing Scientology the last few years. And I wanted her to share her experience with us and give a brief background. I thought, if it's okay, we'll do a quick fire question round.
I love that.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Movie or book? Night in or night out? Favorite book?
Oh my God, Dianetics. I just finished it, and that's the first thing that came from my mind. Dianetics.
Is that a plug?
No, not at all. I promise. No one's paying me to say that. Genuinely, Dianetics.
Desert island, you can only take 3 things with you.
My phone, my massage oil, and my fiance. Does he count? Or does it have to be a thing?
No, you can take your fiance.
Is there Wi-Fi on the desert island? Or
okay. No Wi-Fi. So, okay, give us a bit of a background. Like, obviously we only met a few years ago, but where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? I know you got trained as a lawyer as part of your education. Correct. Give us a quick background as to who you are.
Yeah, so I was born in Mauritius, tiny island off the coast of Africa. I spent the first 14 years of my life there. My childhood was very, what's the word? It was very different, I suppose, very full of randomity, if you want. So I have a sister. She's amazing. She lives in Australia with my mum, and then obviously I had my father. But my childhood was quite rough, to be very honest with you. So I never, you know, when people look back in their past, I never think of my childhood as like a happy memory or like a happy trail of experiences. It was actually probably one of the most traumatic periods of my life. Yeah. Whew.
And then, like, grew up in poverty, or what? Like, when you say traumatic, I know it's a personal question, but what were you going through?
So not really poverty as such. I mean, I have an incredible mother. She's amazing. She's my best friend. But growing up, I experienced and witnessed a lot of domestic violence at home. And I never usually talk about it because it's quite heavy and it's like, you know, it's very serious, and I don't like making things that way. But it is part of you know, like what I've been through as a child. So from the earliest memory, or from the first thing I can remember to about the age of 13, domestic violence was something that I experienced on a regular basis at home. And I'm not talking about
like being
go on.
Being on the receiving end of it, or like witnessing
I mean, I was quite lucky that I didn't receive it as like so much. It was more my mum, sometimes my sister, but usually we would also, you know, like, you know, if you get in the way, like obviously as a child or whatever, like if you're seeing your mum being treated that way, you're going to get in the way to try and stop that. And so then in those moments I would then, you know, receive the blows or whatever, and it's not like, you know, like a little slap or a swear word. It was like, you know, trips to the hospital or the police being involved, having to leave the house in the middle of the night and going to an aunt's house. Wow, it's quite personal. I don't think I've ever spoke about this.
It's funny, because I thanks for sharing it, because I know it's very personal. But I was thinking just earlier today, with this lockdown and everyone being stuck at home, I was thinking there are certain things in the society that are probably better. Like, I don't know if crime in general is reduced, but I thought one thing that might be on the increase is domestic violence. Like, it already, I know there's a lot of it, but maybe with everyone stuck at home together, the no escaping each other, it's probably even worse now than it is normally. So it's probably something that people can relate to. So, okay, you were going through that throughout your childhood into your teen years. How did you escape that? Like, was there a point where you got out of that? Was it adult life? How did you come out of that abusive childhood?
I mean, it wasn't easy. It's funny because my whole life, my mom's incredible. She's always, you know, made a point when this was happening to remind us that, you know, this is not okay, that your body belongs to no one but yourself, that what's happening is not normal, that, you know, no one should ever experience that or subject anyone to it also, because, you know, as a kid, you see that stuff and then you start like hitting your siblings or whatever. And she's like, no, it's not okay to ever do that to anyone. So she's reminded us, you know, she was quite good to tell us and instill that in us for our childhood. And then at the age of 13, I was 13, my parents had a really, really bad argument. It was the worst. And that was the last one as well. So in the middle of the night, since a kid, I always had a suitcase packed under my bed. It had
No.
Yeah.
Why?
Because every time my parents argued, I grabbed the suitcase from under the bed and I went up to my mum and I was like, is this it? Like, can we go? And for various reasons, as you can probably understand, she'd be like, no, no, no. And then that day it was so bad, and she went up to me, she's like, grab your suitcase, let's go. And so I was always ready, like from an early age. I was ready to leave. And then we ran to my grandma's house, had to jump the fence to the neighbor's house, and then it was nuts. Like, you know, the police were involved, and then I called my aunt, who thought we were joking. She thought it was a prank, and then she came and picked us up, and we went and stayed at her house. And that was when it ended, basically.
So your big sister,
and my mum,
and your mum.
Yeah,
wow.
It's intense.
So you knew nothing else than that kind of environment from your earliest memories until 13.
It's funny, but okay. I knew that, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I knew it wasn't okay. I mean,
yeah. You mean, so your mum always made it clear that, you know, that wasn't how life was meant to be, that don't think that this is normal, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also know, like, instinctively that that's not supposed to happen. But it was so bad that it got to the point where my parents would kiss in front of us, and my sister and I would like cringe, because it was like, what are you guys doing? Like, showing public affection is weird when it should be the opposite.
You see these polar opposites. Yeah, totally. And so, okay, then 13, you kind of get more into a what you'd call a regular lifestyle, regular childhood. And then how does that transition into you training to be a lawyer? Was that something you always wanted to do?
You know what? The irony is, my father always used to say, when you grow up, you'll be a lawyer. When you grow up, you'll be a lawyer. I've always wanted to be a teacher. And then funny enough, as fate has it, when I was 14, we moved to Australia. My mum met my stepdad, who's an incredible man. I went to high school there, and then I trained to become a lawyer. It's almost like, you know, hearing it enough.
So why the lawyer when you wanted to be a teacher?
It's weird. Like, to be very honest with you, it was like that sense of like wanting things to be right, like wanting to help people and to put justice where people couldn't necessarily defend for themselves, was initially the reason why I went into law. I was like, people just are vulnerable, and a lot of people don't know how to defend themselves, and I want to do that. I want to help people defend themselves.
Wow, that's great. So it came from like a kind of deep-rooted sense of justice to almost to kind of protect people from going through what you got it,
like through. Helping people who might not be able to do it on their own.
And then, so then you did a great job as a student. You graduated with a law degree.
Correct. Then I trained to become a lawyer. By that time, I'd moved to London, so I finished my training in London. Then I received my training certificate, and then I started practicing. Corporate law in London, not far from where the Church of Scientology is, actually. Very close.
Now, this is actually the part of your story that I find the most fascinating, because you, at the age of, like, what age were you when you were working for that top corporate law firm?
I was quite young. I was 24.
24, yeah. So when we first met, the thing that really struck me is that, you know, and for anyone that knows you, they'll agree with this, you're the most kind of bubbly, positive, outgoing, friendly person there is. And even, you know, you've already touched on some of the more personal issues that you picked up in your childhood. But even, not just that, you also had the corporate job, you had the money, the lifestyle. And I remember our first conversation, I just found it fascinating how you'd achieved all those things, and yet you were still really had a huge gaping hole in your life. So tell us what your life was like and how you felt at the age
It
of
was 24, 23,
24.
24. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're completely right. It's funny because, like, up until that age, I was keeping myself busy, right? I went to law school. I trained to become a lawyer. There was always something to do. And up until that age, it was always like, wow, you're excelling in everything you're doing. You're like, so much ahead of your time and all that stuff. Then I reached 24. I have my practicing certificate, and I get this job in one of the best law firms in London, right, a very renowned law firm. And all of a sudden, all that momentum, all that steam kind of stops. And it's funny because it's something that people strive to get to throughout their life. And I'm 24, and now I have the apartment in London. I have an incredible salary package. I have the job. I have the status. And I am so miserable. It's not funny. Like, people used to say, but you have to be.
Did you find yourself, I have a question, right? Were you miserable 2 years before that when you were chasing the dream, or did you get miserable when you'd reached it and it was like that was life?
That's a good question, Charlie. I mean, I've always known that something in my life was missing, or I've always wanted to fix the trauma that I experienced through childhood. I thought it was so weird that, 10 years since whatever I experienced, that I was still being affected by it. That didn't make sense to me. How can something that happened 10 years ago still be having such a negative influence on my life now? So I've always kind of, I've always been a bit unhappy. But then when I reached the stage where I had it all, it was a bit like, well, now what? What's next? And that was quite scary.
And I know that even before you came across Scientology, had you tried to do anything to fix this? Did you start reading self-help books? Did you look into doing counseling? Had you looked into self-development at all?
Yeah, I mean, I tried Hinduism. I don't know why. I liked some of their, their basic principles. Obviously, yoga. I traveled lots because I thought maybe if I was in different places, I could experience new things. I was quite religious. Like, I was very Christian at one point. And then, funny enough, a week before I got into Scientology, I remember speaking to my mum, and I said to her, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need help. Like, and it was the first time in my life that I've ever said that to my mum, because before I'd always be kind of like the strong one or whatever, And I said, I need help.
Yeah.
And I went to, I was like, I need to go see a specialist. So I went to the GP to get a referral, and it was horrible. He was so rude. I went there and I said,
why? What
I
happened?
went there and I said, I need help, and I'd experienced this in my life. And he was like, it's like, well, that's normal. You just have to get over it. And I was a bit like, for me, it was like, it took so much to actually go there. And then to get that response, I was a bit like, well, okay, well, that's not going to work then. So.
And you just said, like, you feel depressed, you feel anxious.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was so upset. I said that I'm so broken. I need help. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm at the point in my life where I am deeply unhappy and I need help. And he was like, what happened? I said, well, like, my dad is something that still affects me quite a lot. And he's like, okay, well, you just need to get over it. Like, that's normal to go through that in life. And I know it's, it probably came from a good intention, but it came out so wrong that I was like, well,
yeah,
that's that then. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have, GPs are obviously there mainly for medical reasons and to help with the body. From my experience, they either do refer you to a counselor best case scenario, or possibly, prescribe you some medication worst case scenario. But
and that's the thing.
It's interesting that you had that experience.
That's the thing. I never went on medication. And I do remember, like, it's funny, like, he did mention, there's group counseling, there's all that stuff, but also, like, the waiting list was insane. So I was like, well, I'm not willing to wait 6 months to go to group counseling. Like, that's not really what I want to do,
So now it's about this point in your life that, from what I understand, you came across Scientology.
Yeah.
How did you first come across it at this point in your life? Because it seems like now, at this time, you're kind of actively searching for a solution to what you're going through.
And it's almost like you attract it, right? So I'd obviously heard about Scientology before, like everyone, but I never quite understood what it was. It was just a word in passing. I knew it was a religious philosophy, but no more than that. And then a friend of mine told me, it's really funny because I was so desperate for answers that I would speak to anyone about my problems. Like, it was not, you know what I mean? It's like you're hoping someone's going to say something and it's going to tick. And so I was speaking to a friend of mine at the time, and then he said, well, you know, there's this place where you can go and people are super nice and they can just answer all your questions. I was a bit like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, honestly, it's like you just go there, you have an interview, and then whatever it is that you want to improve, they can help you with that. I said, how? It's like, well, it's funny that there's books that you can read. There's a special type of spiritual counseling that you do, but no one tells you what to do. And I was like, well, that's weird, because how can they help if they're not going to tell me what to do? I'm a bit like, what? Like, super intrigued. And he's like, well, I can book you an appointment and you can go and find out for yourself.
And this so this guy's a Scientologist.
But I didn't know.
This person's a Scientologist.
I had no idea.
Oh, so they didn't even bring up Scientology.
They didn't say Scientology. Don't know why.
You just said this place you can go.
This place, you do a personality test, you have an interview, and then you find out whether it works for you or not. Like, no one's going to tell you what to do, but at least you'll find out the root causes of your, you know, of whatever it is that's holding you back. Because very often you think you have an idea, but there's so much shit going on in your head, you don't even know what it is. Yeah.
So then what? Then he just says, go to this address?
So then he sends me the address, and I Google it, and then I see Church of Scientology. And I burst out laughing. I was like, this is hilarious. Like, I don't mind. I thought, okay, well, let's go have a look.
And then you turned up?
And I'll never forget.
What was your first impression? Like, obviously, you were open-minded enough to go and check it out despite not knowing much about it. What was your first impression when you walked in?
First impression, I walked in and I was like, God, this place is clean. Like, I was a bit like, all right, like, it's clean. And then the receptionist was like, hi. I was like, hi, I have an appointment with Charlie. And she's smiling, and I'm taking her back. I'm like, God, she's nice. Those were my two first impressions. The place was so clean, and everyone's smiling. But like, what are they doing? Like, what are they on? Yeah.
And then, so just talk us through, because like, I don't think a lot of people will have either had a first-hand experience or really understand what one would do, like how one approaches the subject of Scientology if they're interested in it. Like, what happens on your first day? What was your experience?
Gosh, super straightforward. So I go in, at reception, you then basically, someone takes you to their information center. You know, it's just like an information center. There's lots of screens, and it gives you like information about what Scientology and Dianetics is. Very important, because Dianetics is all to do with mental health and the mind, and Scientology is more to do with like the study of knowledge or learning more about yourself. So you have a look around. It's super chilled. They offer you coffee. You do whatever you want. Like, you just walk around as much or as little as you want. And then you have the option of taking a personality test if you want to. Now, the personality test is basically, a series of questions that you answer, right? Random questions. But at the end of it, you get a graph, and it shows you your strengths and weaknesses in different areas of your life. And then someone gives you...
And that's when we met.
And then someone like Charlie gives you a free, just a free consultation.
You couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it better myself. You sound like a spokesperson.
But I do volunteer at the church. That helps. Now I do anyway.
What was because I always find it interesting how people react to their personality test results. What was your reaction to your results?
Honestly, I remember I sat there, and you're like, this is how you see yourself. It's not my opinion of you, blah blah blah. And then Charlie goes through the test results with me, and I literally, I think you remember, I like burst out crying, because I was like, oh my God, they found me. And I was like, and it's not pretty. Because, you go around life and you're smiling and oh my God. And you have social, ways of acting and stuff. And then this test tells you the good parts of you. Like you said, I was a very kind person, da. But all the things about yourself that you know is holding you back, and it's on a piece of paper, and someone who's never met you in your life before, knows nothing about you, is telling you about it. That was tough.
Yeah, brutal.
It's intense, because I remember you looked at it and you're like, okay, well, this shows that you've had some emotional neglect in your past, and you're upset in childhood. And I was like, how the heck does this show that? Like, it was so spot on. And it was like, well, this shows that you've done things in your past that you're not proud of, and to this, it's still holding you back. You feel really bad about it. I'm like, it's a graph.
Yeah, it's a great talk.
It's amazing.
So then, I mean, obviously, even before this point, you were searching for help. So that it was almost like a fateful moment that you happened to come across Scientology at this time. What did you do? You got your test results. You already knew that you wanted to work on yourself. What was your first step? What was the first thing that was recommended to you? What did you do?
Then what I did, I personally did a tailor-made program, right? So I was like, just fix me. Like, I don't have much time or effort to kind of like read too much, which is fine. But at the time, I was like, no, I need someone to fix me, like I am at that stage. And I did a tailor-made program which consisted of spiritual counseling and a series of one-on-one courses that you can do. Now, the first thing that really ticked for me, and the reason why I decided to do courses in spiritual counseling and Scientology, was the video I watched about Dianetics, and it talks about this thing in your mind that's holding you back. It's your negative thoughts, your whatever, that voice in your head.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have that voice in my head. Like I had it. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going crazy. And they have a name for it, right? They call it the reactive mind. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm going to give this a go. And so I did. And yeah, then
my phone was about to die, so I'm just plugging you back in.
No worries.
Sorry for my rude escape.
So that's what I did.
I'm with you.
Courses and spiritual counseling.
How long do you think it was before you started seeing a significant difference in your life? Like, did you know after the first session, after the first couple of sessions, that this really worked? Did it take a bit longer than that? How long before you saw like a significant change?
Significant change, I would say, at the end of my program. A difference, I would say, after my second spiritual counseling session. I did a Dianetic session on the death of my grandma, which I thought I had completely, handled in the past. And I remember walking out of that session, and I never felt so calm about something. I was like, oh wow, that really helped.
So that was session 2, and then will you say the whole program? How long did that take? Is that
weeks?
That
took 2 weeks. How long? I was working still full time at the law firm, and then that took about 2 weeks. And by the end of it, I really felt like, I really just felt really at peace with myself, and it was quieter in my head. My anxiety was like considerably reduced, and I really felt like myself again.
Was that like, why did you not? This is a funny question, right? But at that point, could you not have just kind of been happy with your experience and walked away from the whole thing? What made you? Because I know I'm speaking to you now, and you're a Scientologist. You've been practicing Scientology for a few years now. I guess it's like 3 or 4. What made you continue rather than just treat it as counseling that helped you and leave it at that?
I could have, like 100%. Like by the end of the program, I was like, okay, great, thanks, that's it. And I was like, okay, well, what else do you offer? The reason why I kept going, I suppose, is because for the first time in my life, I found something that genuinely helped, to the point of, it wasn't just it helps and then 3 months later, whatever, it helped, and the changes and the things that you experience are permanent. Whatever you do, whatever you experience, whatever you relieve, they're permanent. These things don't change. They're you handle something and it's gone, but it's gone for good. It's not going to come back afterwards.
So the kind of the fact that you found this thing that nothing else seemed to help, this helped, so you want more of it, kind of thing.
I want to try. And I think in the Dianetics video, it talks about this spiritual state called the state of clear, which in Scientology is basically where you no longer have that voice in your head, to put it very simply. And so I was like, well, I don't want that. I don't want that voice in my head. So let's go. Yeah.
And question, because obviously the word Scientology means the study of knowledge, and we both know that study and learning is a big part of self-improvement as far as Scientology is concerned. What was the first thing that you studied in Scientology that had an impact on you?
Oh my God, the first thing I studied, and I think it's your favorite course, is personal values and integrity. That was intense.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the name itself, personal values and integrity, and it basically deals with all the times in your life where you have gone against that. And you can imagine with my background, lawyer, university days, all that stuff, I had done quite a few things that violated my own values and integrity.
Amazing. Yeah. And then, okay, so then you decide to continue. You mentioned there the state of clear, no reactive mind, kind of getting rid of that voice in your head, that subconscious negative voice in your head. You go ahead and now we know that you reached the state of clear. How long did it take you from, I don't know, the point that you first came across Scientology to being able to achieve that state?
That took me 2 years. 2 years. 2 years is not necessarily like the benchmark or the time that it takes. It's completely different from person to person, and depends how much time you put into it. That was done very part-time, and it took me 2 years.
And for someone that doesn't necessarily know anything about Dianetics or Scientology, how would you describe that state?
Do you know what? It's like, honestly, it's like you no longer have any noise in your head. That sounds really weird, but you can sit anywhere and you can look around, and there's literally no noise, no sound, no negative, whatever, niggling thoughts in your head. You're just you alone with yourself. And my memory is better. My appreciation of people is much higher. I can see, taste, feel things more, and I'm just more myself, like whatever that is. Like I have no qualms on who I am. Like I have full certainty in who I am as a person, and no one can knock that down, whether they like it or not. This is who I am.
It's amazing. And because you mentioned earlier, when you'd reached that point, the pinnacle of your career, shall we say, you still felt lost, like something was missing. Did you feel that was fixed or compensated by the counseling that you got?
You mean what I was experiencing? Yeah, I mean, the anxiety went away completely. I don't even know how. Just along the journey, the anxiety went away. I improved my relationships with my family. I have a good relationship with my father and have no upset or anything about what's happened in the past, because I can understand it better now. I'm more confident. I'm more myself. I'm full of energy. I'm driven. And the main thing really, Charlie, is I no longer have to pretend. Like I don't have to.
Yeah, it's funny because from day one, from the first time I met you, even when you had all these traumas, like I said, someone would never know what you were going through.
Huh?
Someone would never think that you're depressed or anxious, or they would think this young girl, smiley, beautiful, she's got the apartment, she's a lawyer. You would just never think that you were struggling with the things that you were struggling with.
But that took effort, like putting that front on. It's not like it wasn't, part of it was me, but it's hard work. Like I remember being around you, and it's like laughy, jokey, and then I can't keep up with you because you're actually being like that, but I'm struggling to keep that up for a long period of time.
It's awesome, Sandrine. It get you, some of what you say gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, it was a little while ago, but it's almost like
it means a lot.
Yeah, but why not though? And then Scientology for me is like, it's more than just, I don't know, it's more than just a religion or a book or whatever. It really is a way of life, and it's a community. It's good people coming together trying to do good. It's very, like, if anyone believes in like being kind, helping others, being productive, that's all Scientology is, really. Being ethical.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's so much more kind of down to earth and logical than
whatever
one might anticipate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you first of all for being so open and wearing your heart on your sleeve.
Oh yeah, look.
I wasn't expecting you to. Oh yeah, perfect. I wasn't expecting you to kind of. I think within about 60 seconds we were talking about childhood
Bloody
trauma.
hell. Yeah.
What would you say, like, having been through it all? What would you say if someone like new to the subject wanted to find out about it? What would you say the best way of doing that is?
If you've gone through any sort of like trauma growing up, I would say Dianetics would be the first thing to check out. Personally, I would recommend to get the DVD because it's much easier to take in. The book is quite chunky, but if you're a reader, then that's fine. But I would say to get the book and the DVD and read it at the same time and watch it.
And what about, just to make a plug for our TV channel, what's your favorite episode on TV?
Do you know what? I'm going to say personal integrity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It's only like, I don't know, 7 minutes or something, but it just hits
just
you.
a couple minutes long, but it literally hits. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, Sandrine. If anyone watching wants to ask a question, you can ask a question in the comments and we'll try to get back to you. I think we're going to try to upload this bad boy to YouTube. So if you missed the live, we'll have it on YouTube the next day or so. Fear not.
Awesome.
Sandrine, thank you so much. We should do something like this again. You're awesome. Your story is super, super inspiring. Guys, if you like the story, share it with all your friends, and we'll do more of these if you like it.
Thanks, Charlie. Bye, guys.
Bye.